And you are right on the money. Welcome. Nice to have you with us. Brad Johansen with Tom Mosley, Mosley Wealth Management. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing great. How about you?
I'm fantastic. I have a quiz for you.
Okay.
How many houses have you owned in your lifetime?
Ooh, I can narrow that to 1, 2, 3.
3 houses.
Right.
Okay. Purchased all of them?
I paid on them from the bank, and the bank always owned them until last year. My wife and I'm glad to tell you, completely own our house in 𝗲𝗄𝗄𝗃, and we owe nothing on it except the taxes every year and the insurance every year and the upkeep.
And how does that feel?
It feels so good. And I'll tell you what we're doing. My wife has talked me into, she came to me and she said, you know, we travel now, and if something happens to you, I won't want to travel. I want to stay home more. So I want to completely redo the pool in the backyard. So I'm feeling a little slighted with that, you know. So
she's already planning.
Well, she wants a deeper pool because our grandkids want a deeper pool, and she wants the different concrete laid out here, and the fire pit sunken, and the kitchen area over here, and she keeps saying, so when you're not here anymore and I'm not traveling, I can enjoy it. So I've told my friends, and one of them has promised to get me a sign. He's going to name it the Tom Mosley Memorial Backyard because it's for when I'm no longer here.
You could have that sign in the back that says ... for when you're not here.
That's right.
Kind of thing. We bring this in because this is the point of the program today. We're going to talk about your house. Is it a blessing or a curse? And what you're doing with that, and what you should be thinking about doing with that, owning or renting. I guess we begin on the blessing of the curse to begin with the should I buy, should I rent, or is that the beginning of where we should be thinking?
I don't know, Brad, that it's at the beginning, because for years everybody's wanted to own their own home. But now with the interest rates what they are, I mean, it's amazing here in Southern California. Like in preparation for the show, I did some rundown on what it would cost to rent a house in my neighborhood versus buy a house in my neighborhood. And get a load of these numbers. To rent a house in my neighborhood, the cost would be, a similar house to mine would be $4,997 a month to rent.
It's under 5.
Right? It's under 5. But to own that home right now with the interest rates they are at right now would be $9,062, more than $4,000 more buy the house. And yes, I know all of the arguments. You're building your own equity versus building somebody else's equity. But those people who are out here in retirement, if you're listening to me, and some of you have just never gotten around to purchasing your own home. I had a couple in my office recently, and they were saying, is now the time to buy the house? Well, fortunately, this particular couple, they were given about $3 million worth of Apple stock by a mother who passed away about 5 years ago. Wow. So they're in position to do whatever they want to do.
That's nice gifting.
It's very nice gifting, except for the capital gains, because they left it in Apple stock. And guess what Apple did over the last 5 years? It kept growing. So they've just come to us. We're helping them with the capital gains. But now they're about to retire, and she's saying, we want to buy our own home. Well, buying our own home for them is feasible because they could sell the Apple stock and pay cash for it. For a lot of people, if you're going to have to go out and get a mortgage, and your mortgage on a nominal home is going to be $7,000, $8,000, $9,000 a month with the interest rates they are right now, you might be better off to rent. In fact, the Wall Street Journal recently had an article in it and said it is better off right now financially to rent than it is to buy, unless you can just outright purchase a home.
Are there people who are now in homes that they have purchased who should be thinking about selling at this time to go over to the other side, the dark side, and rent again, simply because finances are telling them to dictate that now?
Well, maybe with the interest rates the way they are, because I stay attuned to the interest rates because I not only own a home, I'm a financial advisor, and one of the biggest pieces of a portfolio in Southern California has to do with the home, but I also own rental property, not in California, but in the state of Texas. Some of it my dad left me, and some of it I've added since that time. And so I keep my ear to the ground, so to speak, when it comes to selling or renting, or should I sell some of the rental units that I've got in Texas. Some of the people that are in homes now, right now there's not as many homes on the market, so that's one factor. And by the way, I'm not a realtor, okay? Let's make sure you understand I'm not a realtor, but I've bought and paid for a home that's free and clear.
Yep.
And I'm building a Tom Mosley memorial backyard.
That's right.
And so I'm improving mine. I have rental property, and I've worked for 30 years with people and tried to advise them as to the best thing with their home. And so when you look at it right now, it might not be the best time to sell right now because there's not that many people that are in the buying pool. Now, what I mean by the buying pool is when the interest rates are high, there's not that many people who can qualify for a loan, especially if they're 65 years old and they're wanting to buy your home. They're wanting to buy a home for retiring in, and they don't have a job. So they may get a little bit higher interest rate even because they don't have a job. They're just buying out of the equity of their old house, or they're buying out of their portfolio and what they've got saved for retirement. But unbelievably, Brad, I've still got a lot of people who are retiring, and I ask them as to when their house would be paid off, and they say, well, we just refied on a 30-year note 2 years ago. Goodness. So they've got 28 more years left. So selling, renting, generally, if you're already in a home, it might be better for you just to stay in a home instead of selling and renting. But if you're renting right now, one good way to approach this might be for you to just continue to save your money. I call it building up your dry powder so that you're able to fire whenever the time comes is best for you to fire.
So the timing has to be right. We've always warned people against the timing thing, certainly with the market on this. Paying attention to where you are, where you need to be. This gets into the emotional impact of it. I mean, a home is a place for us to sit back, enjoy. This is my spot. But what if I want something different? Do I have to pay attention to the market constantly? Or is it understanding, like your wife is saying, I know where this is going forward. I know what I want going forward. How much do the finances have to play into the feeling of what my place is? This is mine.
Whatever you decide to do, let's say you stay or you go, you stay or you buy, you stay or you move, whatever you do, you have to sit down and do a calculation as to what it's going to cost. What's going to come out of your budget when you do that? Because you may want to do something and you may not be financially able to do what you want to do. So that's how high rates are right now. That's how high the cost of buying homes are right now. So your want to may need to wait for a year or two until interest rates come down a bit before you actually buy.
We've got to go to break. Tell people what you have for them if they need to have maybe a kind ear to listen to what they're doing with their homes right now.
Yeah, I tell you what you need to do. You need to just come in and get an evaluation where we can talk through this. It's one of the things on the first page of our fact finder we go through when we're trying to find out about you, because we start with a blank piece of paper. The very first page has to do with your home, and we'll ask you this question. Is this the last home you're ever going to have? You say, no, we're moving to Minnesota to follow our kids, to follow our grandkids. No, we're going to move to 𝗥𝗵𝗄𝗏. No, we're going to move to Needles. Those are things I've heard in the past 2 weeks, okay? And so whatever your situation is, again, that dictates the financial decision that you're faced with, and then we can put numbers to the financial situation that you're faced with, not to tell you what to do, because you still make the decision on your financial situation. But we will build you a retirement blueprint that includes, what are you going to do with the home? Where's the home going to be? What do you have to do to get one? You have to dial that number right there, 866-709-1462. You're that close to getting an analysis on your real estate and saying, is it feasible for me to sell, downsize, move? What's going to happen if I move somewhere else? I've got clients, Brad, in 32 states, and I've only in 30 years ever solicited clients starting in the state of Texas, but they've moved out of California to 32 states. So we do know a lot about what's happening, not just in California, but where you might think about moving. You want your retirement blueprint? You're so close. You're just picking up the phone and dialing 866-709-1462. And we can put one together for you.
Would you like a blueprint? How much does it cost me? It's free. Do it now. Make the call. Scan the code. We'll be right back.
I had been in the ministry and training for the ministry for about 25 years. It seemed every church I would go to, they would put me in charge of benevolence. And benevolence is when people come to the church and they need money. And they were trying to decide to buy food or buy medicine. And the medicine was some new medicine that was effective, so the drug companies might charge a tremendous amount. And we at the church couldn't afford to help them do that. It was difficult. So when I passed my license on June the 8th of 1995, I was sitting down with my two managers in downtown Pasadena. And these guys, they said, who do you want to work with? And I said, well, what motivated me to get my license was I want to work with retirees. They said, why not doctors or lawyers? And I said from the very beginning, I want to work with people to make sure they never run out of money, because I had seen it.
You've got quite an extensive resume. Wow, so many years of management. Bet that was fun. So this job requires basic knowledge of the social media and video platforms, content creation, and SEO. How proficient are you in those areas?
Going back to work after retiring is not ideal. Plan your retirement right. Call now for your portfolio review and tax analysis.
What does home look like to you? We're talking about homes all day long. To move or not to move is where I want to move, Tom Mosley. Is there something simple about the answer to this? Financially, when we have reasons, and the first may be, you know what, I'm chasing my kids. Now I'm moving up in age. I want to follow my kids, or I want to follow my grandkids, more importantly. To move or not to move, what needs to be the foundation in a good decision on that?
I'm not sure you can make a great decision on that one, okay? I've got some pitfalls. Sometimes it works super well because you move somewhere to another part of the nation. I'm thinking right now of a couple that just moved to Tennessee because their two adult children now had moved to Tennessee, and they're living right outside of Nashville in a little town, I believe it's called Gallatin, and they're loving it. And they're still clients, and we talk on Zoom and we follow up with them on Zoom. But I'm thinking of a lady named Barbara who about 4 years ago, she lived in my neighborhood and she was a client. And she decided to follow her kids to Minneapolis, Minnesota. And she was a person of resources. She's still a person of resources, but she moved to Minneapolis, Minnesota after building a large home for her children and her grandchildren, her daughter, son-in-law, and grandchildren. And she built a mother-in-law's cottage. She called it Out Back, where she could stay. And she called me about 2 months after Barbara moved up there, and she said, Tom, I just got devastating news. And she had already lost her husband. And so I was thinking, what could it be? Could it be a grandchild? Could it be a child? And she says, my kids just came home. She said, I've been here with them 58 days. We moved into this new house I built, and my kids just came home, and my son-in-law is getting transferred to Dallas.
Oh my
And so there she had taken all of that money and chased her kids to Minneapolis. You know what she did? She chased her kids to Dallas, outside of Fort Worth. They live right outside of the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So chasing your children can be a very expensive proposition.
And it was for her.
And it was for her. It was financially very devastating for her to have to sell that new of a home. Yes, it was a gorgeous palace. I saw pictures of it. But then she had to go back and find another home just as she ended up building another home down in Dallas, right outside of Dallas toward Weatherford. And she built a whole another home out there just the same way with the mother-in-law's cottage. And so far, they're still there.
She's a rare case because she's a person of means that can do this not once, but twice.
Yep.
Luckily, she had you behind her in trying to figure that out. Most of us are in that situation where if we were to do that, it might be devastating 58 days later after I've spent all this money trying to figure out where it's going to go. Most of us are probably trying to figure out the other way to go. I'm not going to chase my kids. I've got to stay here. Or my kids are still around me. I can't take care of this place anymore. And I'm not sure the financial situation I'm in on the house, but I know that I've got to downsize because it'll make sense to me, not only financially, but mentally for me to downsize and not take care of it.
Right.
What figures into the idea of a best move to downsize?
Well, Brad, you're singing the anthem to all the ladies who are listening out there, because I hear over and over again, particularly from the ladies, look, we had 4 kids, we had 5 kids, we had a 5-bedroom house, we have a 5-bedroom house, we don't need it. I don't want to clean all 5 bedrooms. And the husband will say, well, just don't clean them. That's not going to happen. You know, it's not going to happen. They're going to be cleaned on a regular basis, or you're going to hire somebody to clean them on a regular basis. So downsizing. Now be careful when you downsize, because you've got to think about how many financial transactions are going to be a drain on your finances. You're going to have to sell. That's going to cost a realtor's fee. You're going to have to buy, because you're going to downsize. You're going to buy a smaller unit. And then a lot of people want to buy a smaller unit here in Southern California, and they lived here from the beach, and they want to move here to the beach, closer to the beach. Well, guess what happens to real estate as you move closer to the beach?
Everything climbs a little higher.
Everything climbs a little higher. The mountains go up on that side, but the beach causes the prices to go up on this side. So you may be doing what we call a swap out. You may be swapping your equity there for the equity in a place that's smaller, granted, but it may be just as expensive as the house that you're selling. And generally, if you've lived in a home for 30, 35, 40 years in Southern California, you're going to have so many stipulations. I mean, even some of the realtor websites that help you sell homes, they will give you an approximation as to how many dollars it's going to take for you to fix your house up so that it's sellable, so that somebody will buy it, and all those contingencies they'll be able to cross off. So you got to be careful. Now, let me talk about one other thing.
Please do.
You moved to St. George, Utah. I had a guy do that one time. They moved to St. George, Utah. They didn't like it. So a year later, they moved back to Southern California, and they loved it because they moved closer to the beach. Now let's talk about financial. You say, it's a financial show. Are you really talking money to me? Let's talk money. They sold a house here. They bought a house in St. George. They sold a house in St. George, and they bought a house here. 4 realtors love them to death, and the governor loves you. Because what you've done by moving away and then moving back, and about half the people like to do that or want to do that, but by moving back, you've lost your Proposition 13 tax break. And so your taxes could be 2, 2.25, 2.5 times as much because you've lost that proposition. Before you do that, I've encouraged people for at least a dozen years now, don't sell your house here if you're moving out of state. Lease it. And lease a house there, because you're going to go buy a house. You might not like the area where you buy it. A year later, you'll know the area. You can go ahead and sell your house here. You can buy it there.
See, I'm head scratching. I'm head scratching on this again, because this goes straight back to what you preach every single day on this program. Don't do something unless you have a plan.
Got it.
You're moving somewhere without a plan, hoping that it's going to work. It doesn't. So you hope that moving back is going to work, and it doesn't. The idea is that if you prep with your financial plan that includes your house, which may be your favorite place to be, wouldn't that seem logical to do it with somebody who has a little bit of understanding and has perspective of doing it tens, 20s, hundreds, thousands of times? This is the whole premise of what you're preaching.
Exactly, exactly. And the key thing for you to know is we're not going to tell you you can't do what you want to do. What we're going to do is just put a price tag on it potentially as to what it could cost you if it's a mistake.
Would you like a blueprint? I mean, the idea is to have a plan, not to procrastinate. And if you want to do what you want to do, wouldn't you want somebody to help you put a financial plan in place so it doesn't cost you down the road? Make the call, 866-709-1462. Scan the QR code. The blueprint is free. And man, the dividends, they can pay you back big time. We'll be right back.
As a good saver, you've been putting away money during your working years. Studies find that the biggest fear of retirees is running out of money. Market volatility isn't just the downward movement of stock prices, it's the size and frequency of change. The more dramatic the ups and downs, the higher the volatility. This can put savers who are newly retired or a few years away from being retired at greater risk. Today's generation of retirees is not receiving traditional pensions as our parents or grandparents did. Instead, we have retirement accounts such as 401ks or 403bs. These accounts typically expose your money to market risk. The last thing you want right before retirement is to lose a portion of the money you need for income. But how do you turn these accounts into a retirement income? Is it safe to keep all your retirement money sitting in the stock market? The last thing you want is to lose a portion of the money you need for income due to market loss. By working with a financial professional, you can learn how to turn a portion of your savings into an income stream for life and income for the life of your spouse if you're married. We all have moments in our lives when we wish we had taken action sooner. Don't let procrastination reign on your retirement parade. Act now before it's too late. Please call our office to set up your no-cost, no-obligation retirement income review today.
So glad you're with us, Brad Johansen with Tom Mosley. We're talking about home ownership, what you should be doing. Maybe it's home rentalship. Maybe you're leasing. You're trying to figure it out. That's what we're trying to help with. I want to go into reverse mortgages because a lot of people entering retirement age are going, hey, is this genius or is it just a gimmick? Take me through reverse mortgages, what we should be thinking about.
Well, Magnum supports them. So, you know, they've always got some kind of salesperson on there who's, and in the fine print, it's a compensated salesperson, but
he sells them very well.
But just like Magnum, I'm not a real estate person. I can't give you a reverse mortgage, but I can tell you the impact that a reverse mortgage can make and has made on some people's lives. There was a time when reverse mortgages first came out. My dad used to always say, anytime Chevrolet or Ford, because that's all we could buy in the South, he said, anytime Chevrolet or Ford comes out with a new engine, don't buy it for a year or two. Let them work out all the kinks. And my goodness, when they first came out with reverse mortgages, if you've got a totally negative attitude toward reverse mortgages, maybe it's because you got some kind of exposure to reverse mortgages when they first came out. They have gotten better. But I always go like this when I talk about tying up your money and a reverse mortgage, because those are, see the handcuffs?
I got your handcuffs.
But the handcuffs are on you sometimes when you've got a reverse mortgage. So there's some things you need to ask yourself. And by the way, again, I'm not the realtor. I'm not a mortgage person. I don't do reverse mortgages. I just do input on whether they're feasible or financially wise for the people to do. And in all the people I've dealt with, thousands of people I've dealt with in 30 years, 2 people have gotten reverse mortgages and their back was completely to the wall. Here's what I'll always ask you. If you are no longer here, not if, when you are no longer here, is there anybody in your family that wants or needs your house? Often I get the question, I get the answer to that and they say, no, my daughter lives with me now. My son lives with me now. They're not on the spectrum. They're not special needs, but they couldn't live on their own. They're dependent on that house for them to be there. I also get the idea that, no, but my daughter likes my house and wants to move back in here when I'm no longer here. My son wants our house. They don't want it for rental property. They actually want to move back in to the house. So that is a big question, because if you go out and then get a reverse mortgage to try to solve a short-term problem with a long-term commitment like that, then you've many times locked your family out of the house. Or at the very least, you're driving up what they're going to have to pay back, because all of that money you're getting, they're charging you for it, and they're running up what you owe on the house for it. It's only going to be up to about 60% of the value of your house that they'll give you in a reverse mortgage. So there are a lot of strings to it. And a lot of people jump into them. They think oh, well, I've got a friend who did this with a reverse mortgage. And then they come out and they say, well, that's not really for me, because they find out the details. The devil's in the details on this.
You constantly said through this program, I'm not a realtor. So somebody's going to say, well, then I'll go to a realtor and get the answers that I need. What are they going to hear from a realtor?
Let's broaden this answer, okay? Before you downsize, before you move to St. George, Utah, or Minneapolis, Minnesota, or any of the other places where I've had people move, be careful talking to a realtor. A realtor's always going to be happy for you to sell your house. Think about it. They don't make money unless you sell your house.
Kind of the purpose of the job.
Yeah, you pull onto a car lot and you say, hey, should I trade cars? What's the car dealer going to tell you?
Heck yeah, you should.
Yeah, you got to do that. So be careful getting advice from there. You've said this, and we've talked about this. Talk to a financial advisor who's going to look at the big picture of your entire situation. It should be part of your retirement blueprint. Yes, where you're going to live. Almost everybody who comes in to see us wants to live in a house the rest of their life. Imagine that, you know? So talk to your financial advisor. The other people you should talk to is your family. Do they want your house? Will they keep your house? Is it of value to them? Is it, maybe somebody needs to live in it. Maybe somebody wants to live in it. Maybe somebody wants to purchase it from the other siblings that they will be left with. All of those things you can talk through. And I think that's more valuable than just talking to a realtor. And if you're married, you got a partner, you're talking to somebody, you're going through life with somebody, talk to them, find out, and come to a consensus between the two of you. What are we going to do with the house? It's so important financially.
To work on a full blueprint is so important financially. You have to figure every little detail. Tom said it. The devil is in the details. But there is joy in completion, knowing that you have an understanding for the first time how this all works together. 866-709-1462 to set up an appointment so that you can get your written financial blueprint for free, for peace of mind. Thanks for spending your time with us. We're looking forward to seeing you in the office, and we'll see you right here next time.